Right, I've got a lot of squares now. I've got 20 for my mitten. You could do more. I think you can do more if you want to make them a bit longer, but we'll talk about that after. Let's just talk at the standard mitten at the moment. All of them are sort of in an order I'm kind of happy with. And you will see here that I've already joined one into a strip. So this is the next stage of where we need to get to. We need to get them into 4 strips of 5 squares. It's really quite straightforward, but I'll just quickly show you how to sort of join the squares together, and then you can go off and do that quite happily. Right, so I've got my layout. As I said, I've already done one strip, so we can ignore that for now. And I'm just going to kind of put them, if you've ever made a quilt, this is sort of how I do my quilts as well. You just put your strips, it sort of condense them by just putting one square on top of the next, so that they're sort of kept in order. So I will have 4 in total, 4 little piles like that to turn into strips. Got one already done, I've already said that. And let's just have a look about how we go about doing that. So I'm going to just put these 2 aside for one moment and work on this one here. In the pattern, Emma says to use I can't remember what she says, complementary colour or something like that, to sew the squares together. And what I've chosen to do, if I start at the bottom here, you can see the outer colours. I've got one pink, one the lovely sort of mild purple colour, and either of those colours would be absolutely fine to sew those 2 squares together. So I've got pink here, and what I've been doing as I've been sewing them together is I've cut a decent length of yarn, sewn the squares together, and then kept the rest of that length of yarn to one side so I can use it for future squares where I need that colour. Sorry for the little fuzzy bits that come off. It's a very hairy yarn, isn't it? It's beautiful. So I'm just threading up my bodkin, and what I've also been doing is tying a knot in the end. You don't have to do this, but I do just to get me started. So I'm going to take just these 2 squares because everything is worked in the same way. So every time you draw, you sew a square together to make the strips, it'll work in this way. So we only need 2 really to demonstrate it. And I'm just going to place them right sides together. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to whip stitch, or I think whip stitch is what she's called it. Whip stitch together by putting our needle just through the back loops of each stitch. So I've put my needle through the back loop of the stitch right in the corner, and I'm going to do it through the back loop, of the contrasting stitch of the pink. So if you can see, they're just through, I think I've split the yarn there. Let's do that again. They're just through one loop of each stitch. It's quite tricky to see on the video, but with a good light, and if you're like me, a magnifying glass, you'll be able to see that in real life. So I'm just pulling that through. I'm not pulling it really, really tight because all I've done, I've only kind of put that knot there to stop it coming flying through from the back to the front, because I'm going to go over that first stitch one more time just so it's nicely secure, so straight through the same place. And then what I've been doing is, I've made that a little bit short, but just kind of laying that thread along the top and sewing over it as I go. That's how I've been working it, but just so I can make it clear for you where to put your needle, I'm going to leave that to one side for now. So my yarn is now sort of secure, and I'm just going to work along the row, picking up the back loop only of each stitch. Okay, it can be tricky to see, and you might find yourself picking up, sort of missing one or whatever, but to be honest, it's beautifully well disguised because of the furriness of the yarn. That will hide a multitude of sins. But look, just picking up the next back loop only and the next back loop only, and working along in that way. Back loop, back loop. If you're working with just back loop only, it just makes the join a little less noticeable. Okay, so right sides together, back loops only. That's really all you need to remember for this. I just want to finish one so you can see what the join looks like. Don't pull it really, really tight. Try and kind of keep your tension similar to how you've been crocheting. Now, at this corner where I'm at the moment, that is where I've fastened off, so it's a bit difficult to distinguish, but do not worry. Just choose a point, choose a stitch and go for it. You won't always have that edge to sew together. I've just sort of happened to select that one. And on my last stitch, I do the same as I did on the first stitch, which is just to go through it twice. Okay, so that's complete. And if I open it out, you'll see, don't worry about it. We're going to block them in a minute, so don't worry about them being a little bit misshapen. But you can see that that join is, you know, it doesn't stand out at all, does it? It blends quite nicely, and that's simply because you're choosing a colour that matches. So it would work equally well with the purpley colour. I just happened to choose the pink. So that's how to join them together. To finish off, I just pass my needle under the stitches and back along a few. And then, sorry, just twizzle that round a bit. And then come back the other way, just sort of securing it through. Like so. And I'm going to trim that. And as I said, I'm going to keep this piece for the next time I need a piece of pink. If you look here, oh, I've already got a piece of pink. These are my ends that I've been working with already. So I'm just going to keep reusing them to attach as many as I can. So I'm not wasting any yarn at all because, you know, we're only sewing together. So you need to go through like that until you've made 4 strips of 5, which I'm just turning them this way around so they'll all get on the camera. And then we're going to block them.